My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. I'm only here to even the score. Whoa. My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. We're down right now, but did it before. Whoa. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up.
What up, Night Nation? It's your boy Roger, and we're back after missing a week with some good news. We've had an addition to the Knighted Ones family. I'm going to wait to say who it is and give all the good details about that, but one of our very own has added a new knight, so we'll be talking about that soon. So I wanted to celebrate that first, along with a big basketball win. But first, welcome to the Knighted Ones podcast, episode number 120. We are the only podcast that features a former UCF National Champion, a former UCF radio host, an ESPN Analyst, and Hoops player, an infamous rapper, our resident influencer, and IG star, shooting the breeze, talking UCF sports. You can tell I'm out of practice. Remember to like and follow us on YouTube, IG, and check out the 70-plus teams and conferences on the College Huddle. Okay, folks, it's been a great week. A lot of winning in Night Nation. Everything from basketball to tennis to everything in between. And Josh will tell us about the details about the other UCF sports that people don't watch. But in the meantime, we're going to start with a little football. And before we start that, I want to welcome someone special to the stage, your favorite predictor of UCF basketball. Last but not least, but always last, Josh Lazar.
Aren't I first this time? And I realized I didn't even clean up my background. I got to go on phones. I've been too busy fishing all the other things that are going on here. So, yeah, that was a great game. We'll definitely get out to it after the break. Not kidding. Just after the pause for the live people.
After the pause, exactly. Wow. Okay. Well, let's start off with a little UCF football news. We do have some portal news to report this week. We are officially up to 31 transfers in. We had an addition. Defensive tackle Artaveous Jones transfers to us from Miami, 6'4", 310 pounds. He is entering his redshirt freshman year. He was a 4-star in high school, and he had interest and was being recruited by us in 2023. He actually visited in 2023 to UCF's campus. He was one of the top 4-star defensive linemen in the nation when we were looking at him. This should be the final transfer for us, but he is going to be a special player. He's someone that helps fortify that front line. We had some folks, as you remember, that entered the portal but came back, including our very large Georgia Tech transfer, who were excited about getting back. But this kind of fortifies and solidifies that D-line. Now, I wish we had more on the O-line, but we don't. GM Mossberger also this week gave his press conference to kind of conclude the class and talked a little bit about what the philosophy is. He says that they're still going to go high school first, but he kind of talked about the cycle of how this works out, right? So they start looking at players for the portal midway through the season. So what they're saying is for college football players, they are looking midway through the current season for next season's portal to try to acquire that. And then they get through the rest of the season, and they get into the high school classes, right? And they try to recruit about 2 years ahead of time. And then they pull forward and do that. So that's crazy. So what you're saying really is that the guys that we're looking at, and we're starting at a certain board, then we look at them, whittle them down, and we get to about 10 to 12 choices. And that's who we try to recruit on the recruit trail. So very interesting stuff. Coach Scott Frost talked about the whole process and how he's glad he's not having to deal with having to do the negotiation part. But he said as well that they're working lockstep with Mossberger and trying to bring the right guys in, and that our new coaching staff or newer coaching staff, including our tight ends coach, et cetera, that we talked about last time, was involved in that. So that was clear with the OSU tight end coming in. Other not UCF specifically, but other football news, the 2026 schedule was officially released. So we didn't talk about that last week, obviously, because we were out. But let's run through that real quick. So first, we've got September 3rd versus Bethune-Cookman. That makes sense. That should be an easy tune-up game. Then we're at Pittsburgh. Remember what happened last time we were at Pittsburgh? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, not so fun. The Pitt special. I thought we were going to win that game, honestly. Then we're back at home versus Georgia State. Then against TCU at home, September 26th. Then we head out to Houston and Oklahoma State in back-to-back weeks on the 3rd and the 10th. Then we have a bye. So that's actually a good thing because if you look at this, we've got 5 games before the bye, right? And then we've got 6 games after the bye. So about mid-season for that. Then we're playing BYU at home. That's our homecoming game on October 24th. 31st, we have Baylor at home. Then at Kansas, the return game in Week 10, November 7th, versus Arizona State, November 14th, versus Iowa State on November 21st at home, and at Colorado. So to me, this is kind of a favorable schedule. The bye week falling when it does is pretty awesome. Having to travel two weeks in a row kind of sucks, but we only have to do that once, and then we have 2 games in a row at home in conference twice. So for me, I think that that works out really, really well. BYU obviously is going to be tough as usual. If we look through the list, Pittsburgh was meh last year, so I don't expect much into next year. TCU, they weren't what they were expected to be. Houston, we'll see. Oklahoma State is rebuilding like we were. BYU, again, is going to be a tough one versus Baylor. So interestingly, they retained their head coach, which I think that actually works in our favor. We thought he might get fired after our game, and then what happened. And then we have Kansas and Lance Leopold. They are having to start from scratch with their quarterback situation, so it'll be interesting to see where they're at. And then Arizona State, again, not as dominant as they were in previous years. Iowa State had a complete rebuild, new head coach, and most of their roster left with the head coach to go to the new spot. And then at Colorado, who isn't doing much of anything. So, Josh, any takeaways from that schedule that kind of jump out at you that either A, is great, you got Pittsburgh at home, Houston at home, Oklahoma State at home, Kansas and Colorado at home. Anybody excite you from the P5 world?
So for the P5 world, well, definitely going to try to find a way to double dip some work at Pittsburgh. We have some people who've been working with in Pennsylvania, so that's going to probably happen. Last time that happened, I was up in Chicago, or actually a little further than Chicago, and had to watch that on my phone. So I was not happy about that most of that day. TCU is going to be interesting. No Josh Hoover, right? But TCU is usually good, right? They usually have a solid team. They find good players. So that might be a really fun, easy test, because if we get past Pitt, I expect, Georgia State and Bethune to be good. So we're going to pretty much get into the thick of it. And this double dip back to back out in Houston and Stillwater is going to be intriguing, because we don't know what Oklahoma State's going to be with the new coach, and Houston spent a lot of money. So it looks like we have this, we'll really know who we are by the first bye or by the bye. And I kind of like the bye somewhat in the middle here because BYU is probably going to be yet again a top 15 team for homecoming. And the last time they came here, I was the academic success partner of the game watching us getting shellacked. So that was fun.
So I blame
Hopefully,
you.
yeah, it's all my fault. Truth be told, I think a lot of it is pretty positive. If we can get through that, 6 games before the bye where we have like 3 pretty hard away games. Who knows what Colorado is going to be this year? And I'm really that's kind of interesting Thanksgiving weekend game, to be honest. Who knows who Kansas is going to be? But we're going to be in the state for about 5 out of 6 weeks. And I'll probably try to find I'm working on some clients in Kansas too. I think, first of all, from P5, I like a lot of what I'm seeing. Just like good, BYU at home, Baylor at home, Iowa State at home. I'm not sure how, I agree with you. I'm not sure how Iowa State's going to be, but I like what I'm seeing generally speaking, right? There's a lot of great teams that I want to see at home. Should be some wins, but who knows? I think it sets up good. If we're 4-2, 5-1 by the bye, I mean, we're hoping, right? We have a lot of momentum and a lot of, very few trips for almost 2 months until we get to November. So I like it. I like who we're playing. I don't see any complete world beaters right now. Maybe BYU is going to be, but it sets up to be a good season, I think. And who knows how teams are after all of the NIL and all this stuff, but this looks like a pretty positive, winnable season if we get our stuff together.
Yeah, the only big question mark for me too is Arizona State, because they've started punching money into their football program. But I could see us being 4-2 going into the bye pretty easily, which sets us up really, really, really well, given the second half of the season, and 4 of those games being at home for us to get to a bowl game again. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and Arizona State, they're going to be back and forth in Tempe and Provo and Tempe and Lubbock. They're going to be like Texas Tech, Kansas State, BYU, Colorado, us back to back, no buys. So, I mean, it's going to be, they're going to have a pretty tough schedule before that too. And, well, I don't know. Colorado's a toss up because Colorado, they can play well. It's not just Shador right now, and company and Horn and company. They can be a good team. They have the money, and Deion Sanders is no slouch. Let's be fair. I don't think he's a world beater at this point, but no slouch, and they have money. So I feel like this is going to be a pretty reasonable, really reasonable schedule. And I agree with you with Arizona State. I'm trying to look at some of the other ones. Interesting to see who we are line up against, but I really like your schedule. I really think we have possibly 8, if 9 winnable games just from not knowing anything of how the teams are right now, just by past history and how we've played against some of these teams. And we'll see.
Yeah, I think for me, bare minimum bowl game is the expectation.
I mean,
bare minimum, because we've got to.
That's not even a disrespect to any of our opponents on this list. There should be 6 winnable games here.
Yeah, there should be. So I think that's the bare minimum. Like I said, so the expectation would be higher. Obviously, stark contrast to last year. The one big hole for me is a big question for me is the O-line. So we'll see, and we'll get a little deeper into that as we get into spring ball and whatnot. Something else that was announced along with this was that spring practice dates were announced today. Obviously, you don't have the spring transfer portal. However, spring practice will start March 29th, which is a little bit later than usual, end on May 2nd. A big reason for that, again, is because you don't have that spring portal. That's interesting to say the least. Next on the list, kind of talking football before we get into hoops, I kind of want to revisit this whole playoff picture thing, right?
Playoffs?
Yeah. So, recently there is the thought process of going maybe to 16 or 24 teams in the playoff picture. And, let's be real, like the SEC and the Big Ten kind of took the lion's share of the money and then took the lion's share of the decision making when it came to the playoffs. Their whole thing was, hey, we should make that decision. The SEC wanted a 16-team playoff. The Big Ten wants a 24-team playoff. Yeah. They had a bunch of negotiations, and it came to nothing. So basically, we had the opportunity for this coming year to have either a 16 or 24-team playoff. That didn't work out. But basically everything that you've heard was that the Big Ten and the SEC bullied their way into it and then never made a decision. They said they couldn't make a decision with all the other people involved, and then didn't make a decision at all. The SEC wants the 16-team playoff with 5 automatic bids for conference champions and 11 at large, which makes sense for them because they're going to get the nod, although they didn't perform as well this year. And then, the Big Ten wants the 24, which has multiple automatic bids for the power league. So more of that being locked in, which obviously would be a good thing for us. And the ability to stage play-in games, which is something relatively new, so to speak, is to have play-in games. So kind of modeling that basketball side of things. Now, their proposal had 3 or 4 automatic bids for the Big 12 and the ACC, which would have been awesome for us because it gives us more chances to do that. It also gives us more chances to make money because the conference, if they have more teams playing in the playoff, that means more playoff distribution money that's split amongst the conference. And no matter what, even if we didn't make it, we're still ending up with more money in our pocket. Where they landed, so they kept it at 12. They did make a change for the group of 6 teams. So in the past, it was the highest rated conference champion. That's no longer the case. It's the highest rated team. So if you had a team that was rated higher than a conference championship, so if they like a highly rated team goes into a weekend and like Cincinnati did and loses in that championship game, under the old rules, they would not make it. Under the new rules, they could still make it over a conference champion in the G6. So that was interesting. Notre Dame, if they rank above number 12, will get an at-large bid. So what that means is that there's a potential, if Notre Dame makes it, that the number 10 and number 11 ranked teams, one of those could be left out of the playoff as well. If basically the group of 6 champ doesn't rank in the top 12 and a Power 4 conference champions don't rank in the top 12 as well. So that's interesting. What do you think about all this? I mean, would you rather the 16 or the 24? Do you agree with the SEC? Would you rather the Big Ten's picture? Because right now, nothing's changing except that group of 6 and the Notre Dame language. I don't like the Notre Dame language. I understand why they did it from a dollars and cents perspective. Is quite frankly, they got into it with the Big Ten, and I think if Notre Dame would have aligned with the Big Ten, I think we may be having a different conversation. But what do you think about all of this?
Yeah, it's interesting because I definitely think the expansion needs to happen. 16, whether 16 or 20, the expansion needs to happen because it's pretty obvious. It's very obvious that everyone thought Miami was, why did they get in, right? Why did they get in? Why wasn't BYU even on the graphic? Which still makes no sense to me.
Well, the same reason we're not ranked this week in basketball, but we'll talk about that.
That makes a little more sense to me and doesn't at the same time. That's going to be later in the show. But here's the thing. I think at some point we realize, okay, we're done here. And I think 16 is kind of close, maybe 20, but 16 is definitely close because
24.
yeah, I mean, even 16 would get about 3 or 4, well, 4 more deserving schools. And last year, there was definitely 4 deserving schools that needed to be there. And I don't know who knows. Maybe BYU would have been the next Miami. I don't think so, but it's possible. So something should have happened. And this is unfortunately the two people who are trying to consolidate and shut everyone out, just, picking up their ball and going home. I do think that we should be at 16 at least, but definitely 16. I do believe having guaranteed spots and having play-in games for like the bye of a playoff for probably 2 or 3 conferences makes sense. I do think it's going to be the Big Ten, the SEC, and the Big 12 in most years, the ACC in some years, depending on how good their top of the ranking is. And in football, I think the Big 12 is that number 3 solely because I think top to bottom, everyone's good in football. There's no slackers in the Big 12. There's no one just collecting a paycheck. And I think it, within reason, shows. Texas Tech doing what they did was wonderful, but I mean, pretty much very few people were better than Oregon, Miami, and Indiana this year. Like they were the best.
Miami, I wasn't sold on.
I wasn't getting in, but when he started playing, yeah, you could see.
They had 2 losses, man. They shouldn't have been in. The big thing for me,
I agree. That's why it should have been 16. No, I agree. They shouldn't have been in.
Even if it was 16, though, like I don't like the 16 versus the 24, and here's why. The 16 allows for 11 at-larges, which basically means you get 1 champion from each one of the power schools, 1 G6, and the rest, let's be real, they're going to put 3-loss, 4-loss SEC teams in there. That should not happen. Agreed. So if I were going to look at it, if you were going to go 16, then it should be more automatic bids distributed, not what the SEC has promoted. And I think that's what the Big Ten's afraid of too. And quite frankly, the Big Ten was a better football conference than the SEC was last year. So I don't think that's good for the sport. I think the 24 at the very least, having multiple bids, even though you have more for the SEC auto bids and the Big Ten, but I think distributing that's another way to offset that wealth distribution, where teams like the Big 12, teams from the Big 12 and the ACC will get a little extra dollars. Although the ACC allows the playoff teams to keep their revenue. They don't have to share it with the rest of the conference, where the Big 12 you would. So to me, as far as UCF is concerned, I think that the 24 team would be the better option. I think that it would allow us to generate more revenue, even if we don't make it. And it keeps more equitable footing when it comes to playoff participation versus someone like the SEC, because I think the SEC would absolutely, and ESPN, since they own it and they own the SEC, would absolutely, basically tip the scales in the SEC's path. And I think the Big Ten sees it too, and they don't want that to happen, which is why they're saying what they're doing. They're not doing it out of the kindness of their heart or fair play in college football. They just don't want the SEC to get the treatment that we've seen them getting over the past decade. I mean, since Nick Saban's been there, really is when the SEC really took off. So that's
not wrong. You're not wrong. I just think they're not going to go that step that far. I think realistic is going to be a 16. You're right. You're completely right. I just don't think I don't think it's any way, shape, or form ever going to. I won't say ever. I doubt it's going to happen. So at least get to something that's better for overall college football that we may have a shot eventually of being.
Well, I don't think a 16-team playoff is better than a 12-team playoff for college football because of how it's positioned as basically you're not changing anything. You're just dropping more SEC teams in there that are undeserving, quite frankly, in my opinion. So I don't think, especially since ESPN owns it, I don't think that's a fair shake. I think that would make college football worse. So that's just my opinion on it. I would prefer the 24. I think it distributes more wealth. I think it's better for the Big 12. I think it's better for UCF football. And since this is a UCF show, I don't care how Ole Miss feels about it. So, all right, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the spring game. So the spring game right now is still up in the air. We do have the spring practice, but spring game will not be announced for at least 2 to 3 weeks out from the end of. So I'm thinking like April, it's going to be announced. And the reason for that is because the tower construction, right? So the tower has made a lot of progress. The tower has the interior. They're working the interior now. But from an ops standpoint, any sort of production that they're going to have to do, like they're not going to have an announcer booth because it's gutted. They're not going to be able to run cameras or a video board, no press box, all of that stuff. So it'll be interesting. As it stands right now, that's all in question. So if you're going to host a spring game, what they do with that, whether they just forego it this year, or whether they try to do something like going to the Citrus Bowl or maybe Orlando City's stadium or something like that, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I'm going to guess they may just forego the spring game this year altogether. Scott Frost doesn't like to do that anyway. And in today's college football, a lot of that has to do with checking out talent on the field and then pregame prepping. So we won't know until mid-April whether they're going to do that or not, one way or the other. News today that the illustrious former UCF head coach Gus Malzahn has officially stepped off the Gus bus and is retiring. Listen, rumors were that Gus was trying to get to Arkansas, interviewed for the job. They went a different direction and that they were trying to get rid of him at FSU. I think he basically pulled a reverse Uno. So he took care of us. He took care of FSU. And quite frankly, I think it's the right moment for him to step down and retire. Yeah. I think he should have done it after UCF. More power to him. He's made enough money in college football. Like, go spend time with Christy and the family. Nothing against the guy. And, he obviously helped us out by stepping down. But with the buyout situation, as far as FSU is concerned. But I'm glad he's retiring. And, I don't think it's on his own terms, but I think he's come to the realization that it's time to hang up the headset.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It feels like something that had his hand forced, but you know what? That's okay. Sometimes that's perfectly fine. Even if he didn't come back after Christie's medical issues, I think we'd all be okay with it. Even if he retired last year, I think we'd all be okay with it. I think So I met him multiple times, mostly as an academic versus a sports fan. And generally speaking, I had nothing but praise. Like the way he talked about the team and the people he was, working with and building up. It's very positive. So I think it's another one of those, like there's a lot of positive things there that he had when he was working with student athletes, and it also might be another one of those is a lot different until everyone got paid and it's just not willing to deal with it anymore. He has enough money. He has like 5 million, Waffle Houses. Like money is not the issue. It's kind of like Johnny Dawkins, he'll know when he knows. And he said that a couple times. He'll know when he's done, when he doesn't have more to give. And Gus might not have more to give. And let's be fair. FSU wasn't the best team in the world last year, but they scored a ton of points and different games. They had the yardage and the offense was significantly better with him. Now maybe the play calling wasn't everything it needed to be, but that's life. And it looks like Norvell is taking over play calling again, which we'll see what happens.
Well,
So,
former UCF coach became the OC Tim.
Yeah, Ice.
Tim Harris.
Yeah, I saw Tim Harris being the OC, and I think that was a natural progression too. You can see his growth through here, and I think he was an FIU. I forgot he was FAU or FIU down south too before coming up here. Probably FIU because he was a big Miami guy, generally speaking. So I think things happen the way they're supposed to happen, and I think this feels about right. Whether purposeful or not, going off on your own terms, having the funds to do whatever you want, taking being with your family and your wife and your daughters, retiring probably somewhere in Arkansas sounds wonderful, right? I think most of us would love to do that. So wish him the best. Maybe he coaches a high school team back in Arkansas or somewhere else, hangs out with his family, kids, grandkids, and enjoys time away.
Yeah. And I do think that, back to the Tim Harris thing, I do think he waited this long to make sure that Tim got the job. So
yeah,
he has been known for doing that as well as trying to get people promoted. All right. So one weird bit of interesting football news coming out. The Fiesta Bowl has announced the creation of the first ever National Collegiate Women's Flag Football Tournament featuring 8 Division I universities. Florida is there, and your UCF Knights. So
nice.
That'll be hosted at Arizona State and is set for April 18th or 19th. So we will be playing for a championship.
Nice.
Lastly, Rocco Marriott finished the number 15 QB in the country. So he is our one of our quarterbacks and our presumptive quarterback of the future. And he finished number 15 in the country. So we have a top 25 quarterback coming into UCF as a freshman, assuming we hold on to him the following year. All right, let's go ahead and swiv it. There you go. And we'll get into a little hooping and hollering. So lots to talk about on the basketball front. UCF had a perfect week this week, going 2-0. We beat ASU 79-76 in a nail biter. We beat number 11 Texas Tech 88-80, and somehow, we're still not ranked. We'll talk about that in a bit. We improved to 17-4, 6-3. We're on our very first 3-game winning streak in the Big 12 Conference. And by that, I mean Big 12 Conference games. We are currently just outside of the top 25 at number 28/29 with 39 votes. We play number 8 Houston next on the road, and we'll go over that game as well. But let's go ahead and start with the ASU game. Wow, we were trailing most of that game. We were not shooting very well. And, it was the last 5 minutes basically where they turned up the wick. I was a little worried because Themis Folks had a couple of opportunities to shut that game down early, at the free throw line, where he could have extended it to a 2-score lead late. But uncharacteristically missed a free throw. And then we had a turnover as well. So, they definitely made it difficult for us. We didn't make it easy on ourselves. We ended up shooting 45%. We took 65 shots versus their 55. 3-point from the 3-point land, we shot about 21%, which is low for this team. And it wasn't anything that they were doing defensively. We had open shots. We were just not nailing them. Thankfully, they only shot 23%. Or we shot 32. They shot 43%. They were 10 from 23. Free throw line, they didn't do as well either. They shot 70, we shot 74. However, as is characteristic for this team and something we've been yelling about and screaming about for the better part of probably 5 years, is rebounding. And we out-rebounded them 40-28, 13-5 on the offensive boards, 27-23 on the defensive boards. And that's important when we talk about Texas Tech too, because that is a reason that we won. And when we beat Houston, the previous years that we beat Houston in 2025, we beat them. We lost, or I'm sorry, we didn't beat them. We beat them once. We lost by 1 point once, 69-68 in a nail biter. That's what Houston does. That's their formula for success, right? And when we get into Texas Tech, we'll talk about the role that Burks plays in all of that and how the gamesmanship and the strategy that went into that game ultimately led to success. In addition to that, the assists 16-13, steals 7-6, blocks, they had 5 blocks to R2. They had 10 turnovers to R9, so got those turnovers back down again, which is super important. Did the same thing at Texas Tech. I feel like, I don't know, the refs got less involved in the Texas Tech game, which was nice because usually when we play a Big 12 conference opponent that's top 25, we get the short end of the stick when it comes to that. There was definitely still some questionable refereeing in this Arizona State game. And something I've never seen before, one of the refs got hurt at halftime, and they were running with 2 refs, which is nuts, which means that they were calling it way more aggressively on fouls the second half of the game versus the first. There was also that situation, I can't remember, was it Texas Tech or was it Arizona State, where Riley Kugel got into the bench and started jawing with the bench a little bit, and their head coach came out. I think that was Arizona
State. I didn't see that at the Texas Tech game.
Yeah. So, they have a little bit of a hothead of a head coach, and he got into it with Riley Kugel, and he was pulled back. And I don't, Riley can, I've seen it a few times, and this team has been teed up probably more times than I remember of any UCF team during the season. But that was interesting. Now, he kept his hands down. The Texas Tech bench did not. The head coach got into his face. So it was definitely contentious. We had 17 fast break points and 12 points off of turnovers versus their 8. 38 points in the paint versus 24. There's this misconception, I think partly because of what years past the offense has looked like. Our offense definitely goes through the paint. And we are outscoring our opponents in the paint, which is not usual for a UCF team. Now, part of that is because there's a lot more movement on our offense. We're doing a lot more, it's not just dribble, handoff, or weaves at the top of the key and then pass it around and then shoot a shot late in the shot clock, right? It's, hey, let's go ahead and try to penetrate. Demas Folks looks like a completely different player than he did at the beginning of the year. He's got that extra burst and that speed, and he's making teams pay at the basket. And because of that, that's opening the door for him to have assists. Now in Texas Tech, he was actually double teamed quite a bit, which opened the door for others to step up as well. But they were basically saying, hey, the rest of the team in the bench has to beat us. We're going to take out Demas Folks. So Demas Folks, Riley Kugel, both of them are going to be for the rest of the season and here on out are going to be, covered and smothered, as Gus used to say on his order at Waffle House. So it'll be really, really interesting to see how that develops the rest of the season. Good news is Jeremy Femina should be back by Cincinnati. He's been out for a little while, so we were a little light in depth. John Bull, though, and at the Texas Tech game showed out. But Jeremy Femina, he was our backup center, and he was getting as much and then seemed to be getting better and better week in and week out. So that was a big thing for us as far as depth was concerned, especially when you're worried about fouls and things like that, right? Cambridge played a little bit in Arizona State game. He's been better. It's kind of interesting, 2 weeks in a row 2 games in a row. He's played against someone that he played for. He played for both Arizona State and he played. We're missing Josh. He played against Arizona State and
I'm just off camera for a second.
Okay, he played for Texas Tech as well.
Who did he play for?
Yeah, exactly. So, overall, this game against Arizona State, it shouldn't have been that close. This Arizona State team was not great, but we just had an off game, but we still managed to win. So playing tough games, playing from behind, this team has been able to show that consistently, and that's going to serve them well in the tournament. It was interesting after the game against Texas Tech, in the interview, they basically said, "Hey, our mentality is we're going to play as if we're down by 10 and tell ourselves as if we're down by 10 every game, so that we keep the energy up for what we need to be able to win." So, very interesting stuff there. Anything else you want to talk about as far as Arizona State is concerned before we move to Texas Tech?
So Arizona State, unfortunately, I didn't get to see the whole game because I was at a conference. So I was in Texas at the time, which was fun coming from Texas and seeing Texas Tech within 24 hours. So, I know that we were down. I know we weren't out. Obviously, we won. I hate coming back from behind against teams that I won't say we shouldn't, but we have. And I will say this, in previous years, we know what the results would be. It'd be very clear. We probably lose those games. So I feel like this year has a lot different in a lot of different ways, because we are surging back. We are, down 10-ish and, 8 minutes left and finding ways to win. So it's one of those games where we've had multiple times at home. Sometimes I feel like we played to the level of our opponent, where, we have high highs and like decent mids, no really low lows. Honestly, our 4 losses weren't bad. One we really should have won. But I feel like that could be for a couple of reasons. But pretty much
4 are top 10 or top 13 teams.
Oh no, I know. It's Oklahoma State. That's a game we should have won.
That's the outlier.
It's the outlier, and it was still a quad 1 loss. Although when we want to talk about why aren't we ranked, that's other than the fact that partially name, partially opponents we played out of the conference. We can have an objective conversation about that in a second. But for Arizona State, I'm just glad we got the W. That's all. We found a way to win. And this year, we're finding a way to win more than in many past years. We're talking probably 5+ years since we've seen a team able to get down pretty deep in their bag and find their way out.
Well, and the reason is because we're not relying on one scorer, right? Because we had 2 scorers on most of the previous teams, right? Yeah. So we had John Hall, we had DJ. Those guys were scoring production. If they took that, like Texas Tech did against Amos Folks and double teamed them, if they took one of those 2 players away, all of the pressure was on the other player. And, that really isn't conducive to winning close games or when you're getting behind, because then we would just jack up threes, right? And the interesting thing for me in both the Texas Tech and the Arizona State game and the Cincinnati game was Pacheco's finally, I think, finding his footing in the Big 12. So he's knocking down threes, which is important so that we have another 3-point shooter, because that's what he was brought in for. And he's starting to feel himself. And because he's feeling himself, I think that that gives us another option there as well that helps. Nice.
Chris Johnson actually like really coming in the clutch when it comes to relieving Folks in the time that he needs some breathers. Like, he's not getting in foul trouble that much, but even that, like, the pieces of the puzzle work well together. I think it's a mix of really talented players that are absolutely buying into the system, with Adam Hood's offense in there too, and Dawkins' defensive mentality. Like, you see pieces of that, and you'll see like almost all of it put together in the Texas Tech game right off the jump.
Well, we recruited differently too. We recruited scorers, right? We didn't recruit defense, or tried to recruit a couple of scorers and then have the rest of the people defensive focused. Adam Hood finally has his system fully in. We're playing different offenses depending on how we're getting played. We can play a dribble handoff. We can play a weave. We can get it into, the 10 to 15 feet away from the basket and make that. How many times did Themis Folks against Texas Tech hit a fadeaway in that area? So that means you can break up zones. We've been playing press lately, but offensively, there's just so much variety in what we're doing, and we're not leaning on one thing versus the other. The interesting thing, I guess we can start talking about Texas Tech.
I was trying to leave that.
Yeah, my recap. I sent this to you guys after the game, and I kind of want to read it here because this really, I think, encapsulates it. This game really was all about the details, right? Bowl had a monster game. We've been seeing him getting better and better and better and better. What he's doing better is getting offensively. He's playing much better. He's finding his spots. The team is adjusting and not passing to him low. They're passing up to his chest because he's not going to hold on to those balls. I think they finally learned it. And then, when he's cutting or, his timing is much better in the paint, which is allowing the rest of the guys to find him for open looks at the basket. So you saw that. The other thing you saw was defensively, he's playing much better as well. His positioning, when he's doing help, when he's not doing help. The only thing he still does, which drives me nuts, is he, instead of going arms straight up, he's going arms over. And I get why he's doing it, but at the same time, that sets him up for foul shots.
Yeah. And sometimes that happens when he's late too. Like, he's there, but like not like, oh, I need to go straight up. It's like it leans. It does. It's been obvious a little bit, but listen, that's going to happen. It's not like he played a ton last year. So,
no, he played 39 minutes last year, right?
I know. So, he's not learning basketball. Obviously, he's a pretty talented athlete. He's learning how to play in this system and play well, and you're seeing the evolution of that as well. It's really amazing.
Yeah, the other thing that I noticed is he wasn't getting pushed around in the paint like all season long. He's been, boxed out or kept out of the paint for rebounds, etc. So in this game, that wasn't the case.
He's been aggressive.
JT Toppin still had 27 points, but he was the only one that was really grabbing any boards, and he wasn't doing it over Bowl. And so he made a joke in his post press conference where when he got hit in the leg when he right before halftime, and he went back into the tunnel. He was like, I don't have any meat on my bones, but I'm tough. So he came back out and he said he was fine. But really impressed with that, really inspired on the glass. He didn't get pushed around. His positioning is better both on defense and on the glass, which is going to pay dividends long term for this team, especially given that Jeremy Famina was out. I think that they did let us play a little bit more in this game than they have recently, especially playing the number 11 team in the country, which helped. I don't know if that was JD or not. I can tell you against Arizona State, there was a lot of, what are you doing, man? He was way more animated. He's been more animated lately as well, which is good to see. He's been John. He talked to the refs before, but there are a lot of times in years past where he wasn't as active with the team, and he'd be sitting down on the bench as opposed to standing up or doing whatever. Timeouts were timely. And the big thing too was Burks. So they repurposed Burks's role. Now, he had done this kind of early on in the season. In the past, he just sat out there in the corner waiting for a basketball, for a pass to him so he could pop a tray. Burks is sneaky athletic. Yeah, he's the guy that's out there, but he's not short. He's a good size. He can jump. and he can run, and he can, when he's in the paint, he can score. So he was in the paint more purposefully in this game than what he has been in the past. He was grabbing rebounds, which I think between Stillwell and Bowl and having him in there, having 3 guys in there grabbing the boards, rebounding was super important for Texas Tech. It's one of their keys to success. And the fact that we had 3 of those guys in there that were fighting for boards, I think was extremely important when it came to this win. He still had 17 points. Most of them were on the paint. He was 5 for 7 in the paint. He was 1 for 1 from the 3-point line, so he had a great game. He had 4 rebounds. Jermichael Stillwell had 10 in this game. Bull had 10. So he almost had half the rebounds of those 2 guys, and that's because of where he was positioned when in the offense, because he was in position and they weren't accounting for Burks in that role. They were accounting for Stillwell. They were accounting for Bull. And then when they adjusted, it opened up things for Bull as well on the glass. So that was a sneaky good. They didn't double Toppin, and they picked their poison. They picked their poison there, and their poison was to reduce the number of 3-pointers that they make, because they have JT Toppin. He's so good that they can put more shooters on the perimeter, and that's typically how Texas Tech wins. They have someone like JT Toppin. You saw him; he's extremely athletic. He was grabbing boards, he was scoring. He was doing all of those things. We took away some of his tendencies on his. When we played defense, we played to his right, made him go to his left. He was comfortable doing that. And because we had those guys on the glass, you had 3 guys there on the glass, and they usually play with the shooters. And we didn't double team him. We were able to cover the shooters for the most part. They're going to score. They've got high percentage shots. They were on fire early. I mean, hitting that one kid was hitting him from like the second logo, right?
Yeah.
It was absolutely ridiculous. But they cooled off towards the end of the game, and that allowed us to keep it. The other thing that happened here is we started with a bang. We did not. This team did not look intimidated. They looked confident. They were scoring. We jumped out to an early lead, and that allowed us to sit Themis Folks for a while as well. Chris Johnson, to your point, we've been talking about him all season. He's a good enough point guard on his own that I think Johnny's finally got the confidence in him to allow him to run the point for more minutes, which keeps Themis Folks' legs fresher in the 5-minute mark. They sat him way earlier in the second half than they typically would. I think it's around the 11-minute mark, and then brought him back in with about 4.5 minutes to play, which means that he had fresher legs than what Christian and those other guys did from Texas Tech. And you could see it made a huge, huge difference. And that was especially important with Riley Kugel being sick and under the weather and sitting out early. So again, CJ, having something like that, like someone like that to come in and to be able to take over at the point and not have that much of a drop off. Is he Riley Kugel? No. Is he Themis Folks? No. But he can drive the paint, he can kick, and I think he could be as good as Riley Kugel long-term if we can hold on to him, because he's a really, really, really good option for point guard, and that helps us long-term, especially when it comes to tournament time, as you play more games more frequently and you get beat up, and having a guy like Chris Johnson, having Jeremy Famina, having those guys, that sets us up. And I think right now, if correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is a tournament team. I don't think there's any question that this is going to be a tournament team at this point.
Unless they fumble the bag bad, but they're probably not. No, it's going to be, yes. And so it's I'll tell you this, that game was phenomenal to watch for so many reasons. And let's just start off the top. You talk about it, we started strong. We started with actually doing a full court pressure to get them to 20 seconds left on the clock, with not just a show of pressure, then back off and you take it for 5 minutes. It was a show and a switch and switch back. And did they get the ball in a turnover? No. But I think we discombobulated them at the top. And let me explain why that's useful as a recent thing that happened within the last 5 actual minutes as we are live here. Right now, Texas Tech and Kansas are playing each other in Lubbock. Kansas was up 35-31 with 16 minutes left in the second half, 16:50 or so. Within the last 2 minutes of game time, Texas Tech went on an 11-1 run. They're up by currently 6 points, which was 2 3-pointers real quick, 2 turnovers, and 2 dunks, or at least 1 dunk. So that's the type of team they can be. And they did not do that almost any time during the game that we were watching. They can score quick. And they can score threes quick. That first 6 to 8 minutes of that game, maybe about 6 or 8 minutes of that game, we showed pressure. We switched up different coverages. We actually did the defensive things that Dawkins, I keep trying to say Donnie instead of Dawkins in my head, but Dawkins wants to do. Mixed with it, now the offense was good, but not amazing that first 6 minutes, but was really good. The crowd was really into it. I honestly think from that point forward, that changed up their mentality for a while. Yes, did they tie at some points? Yes. Were they up for a little bit? Yes. But generally speaking, that just ran them right off of what I think they thought they were going to get at. And people might forget they had a full week to prepare for this game. And even in the presser, their coach was talking about how we prepared for things, but we just kind of got hit in the face, if you will. And so in that game, a couple of things were definitely clear. That was one of them.
Well, defensively too, just to add on to your point,
Yeah.
the coach said their coach said at the end of the game that they were out of position defensively. They weren't where they didn't stick to their plan and what they had talked about. And, part of that is the players, but a bigger part of that to me was the offense, right? Because they clearly had a game plan. Take away Kugel, take away Fulks, and make the rest of the team beat you. And when you do things like reposition Burks and not play him like what you would see on tape, this absolutely, and having less time to prepare, this was absolutely a masterclass in setting them up. It's always harder to win on the road, but the strategy clear, right? It was clear.
And so, yes, and there's a couple of pieces to that. So one, they didn't know Riley Kugel was basically, I won't say worthless, but like probably shouldn't have been on the court. Like when you're isolating him because he's, and I guess there was, so a couple of things, if you haven't been reading some articles, other places, or seen some videos or images. So Riley had a flu or some type of illness that was, I think, the reason Stillwell was out at Iowa State, and a couple of other people have been out. I think it's now gone through the team, which is good. I don't think it's why Fumena is out. Fumena is something else because you can kind of see him walking around. So that's probably something else. But this has gone through the team, and I was there and I didn't read up on all this beforehand. And I was, sometimes Riley takes some offensive plays off and whatnot. And it's really hard to get in your game when you're feeling like that. Right. So, or anytime you do anything. So I feel like that was a piece of it. And he was already kind of taking himself out. So then you're focusing on the other things. The other pieces were they were switching on everything. They were switching on everything where Bull was guarding Anderson. Like Bull was guarding the 1s and 2s. And honestly, he held his own pretty darn good.
I think that was by design, though. Because
no, absolutely was.
Pointers.
The one time they tried to switch when Fulks and Bull tried to switch at the top of the key, and I think it was Anderson or one of the amazing 3-point shooters, and they have them. Once they switched, the guard saw it, just straight up pulled up while they were flipping, had no one around them, and buried a 3 at about 28 to 30 feet. Like in my head probably said it out loud, is like, just stay on them. The worst case scenario is they drive fast and you get a 2, which isn't a 3, which they were hitting pretty decently. Actually, they're hitting everything. They were at like 25 for 40 shooting percentage somewhere in the early second half of the game. It was insane. So that's fine. Switch everything. Who cares if you get the 6-foot guy on ball? He defended out of his mind at 26 plus feet. Like the John Bull chance started when he created a turnover back near in front of the Texas Tech bench with active hands. It wasn't a dunk. It wasn't a turnaround. It was that. And that's when those chants started, because he was playing out of his mind.
Well, I think the other part about it is, to your point, they ended up shooting 38%, which is well below their average of 51. Johnny Dawkins did have, and they did have Bull out there to. I mean, think about it. If you're a 3-point shooter, you've got a normal arc that you're shooting your shot at, right? You've got a guy who's 7 foot tall, plus his wingspan of over 7 feet, right? So you've got that in front of you. You're not going to be able to shoot over that person.
It wasn't easy.
You can't go under him. You can't go around him. You can't do anything else. So there was a clear decision made, and that's part of the reason why Burks was in the paint so much on the rebounds, was to have to take away as much of that 3-point percentage shooting as you possibly could. And we did. And they still, I mean, it was both halves were the same score, 44 to 40.
And they still felt like that game live felt like it should have been a 20 or 30-point win, where they were always in it the entire game. They were, and a lot of that is their 3-point other shooting. I mean, they can score quick.
They answered runs, especially when Fulks was out. So when Fulks was out, our scoring went down, which allowed them, and they were out faster in transition. And that's one of the other things that they do. So when Fulks was out, that created more transition offense for them. But field goal percentage, their field goal percentage was 56%. Now, part of that is because 27 of their 80 points came from, like, 40% of their points came from JT Toppin, right? And he makes his bones in the paint. So that's part of the reason for that. But if they would have shot 50%, right, we still shot 10 more shots than them, right? And we missed some gimmies on the layup. Like, wow. That we normally make, right? That we normally make. The other thing was we had 22 trips to the free throw line. We shot 82%. They had 12 trips, and they shot 58%. Rebounding, here's the big one, 35 rebounds, 13 offensive rebounds to their 4. They live and die off of the offensive rebounds. And that's what makes me really excited about this Houston game, because Kelvin Sampson, the way he wins games is on the boards and hustle. So if we can dominate the boards against Houston, we have a good chance at winning against Houston.
Houston is 149 out of the last 50 at home. If we win that, it would blow my mind, and has nothing to do with our team. But I will say this, and if you want to wrap up Texas Tech, that was one of the most complete games I think I've been a part of. And the way I was saying it in our chat, this was we versus 3, and barely 3. Christian Anderson and JT Toppin are just going to get theirs. They're probably both going to play in the NBA, or at least Christian Anderson might be further along in good leagues. Toppin's obviously an NBA player. I think it's very obvious. And even like Atwell, pretty solid player. But the rest of the team, they were just not cutting it. And like top down, our entire team, I know Cambridge got 4 fouls real quick. One that was just, I don't want to get into that. What was real?
Too small.
Oh, listen, he did it. No, he did it. It was very obvious. Now, so 2 things. One,
that's 2 games in a row, though. He got technicals against his former.
There was one he got while Texas Tech was running the ball up the court that absolutely should not have happened. No one. You looked at the replays. You're like, what is this? Come on. The other part of that, So I think it was Anderson. I'm not sure who it was. Right after he did that too small, Anderson, I think it was Anderson, shot like a 30+ foot like bomb right in front of Dawkins, and he taunted the entire coaching staff on the way back, and the refs didn't see it. You can even go, the rest was my bad. You can see the math. My bad. Didn't see it. You can't, like, if it's that type of game, you can't just turn a blind eye to that. It was very obvious. Like, 4 of the coaches jumped out of their seats. Fans jumped out of their seats and booed the refs. The refs actually did good this game for the most part. I'm not going to lie. It was pretty darn well ref. But if you're giving a tech to someone doing too small, I get it. Don't like it. I get it. But you can't miss the blatant reversal of that from the other team.
That's the first time that's been called. And going back to your point, right? We have not won against Houston. Now, we've had a lot of close games, but we have not won against Houston since 2018-2019 season. That was March 2nd.
Right.
So, going back to what you were talking about with the team, right? Yeah. That 2018-2019 team was pretty special. Right. I do think this team is good enough to beat Houston, and we'll talk about their why I think that here in a minute. But finishing out Texas Tech, right? One of the other things that was interesting to me was, again, the ending. We haven't talked about that yet, right? Yeah. So you had the double court storm.
Yes.
So shout out to the security team. You see that security team was like absolutely ready for that. They had both benches covered.
They were good.
Yeah. And then shout out to the students, for they showed out, they were active. And once they got onto the court, they got back into the stands pretty quickly. Yep. So other than the one guy who like jumped up and started doing pull-ups on the rim, that was pretty orderly in getting that back. And then we got the second court storm. Now there are some people that are like, okay, well, act like you've been there before. And to you, I will say we haven't.
No.
Right? I mean, we had Kansas that we beat that first time we had the court storm. It's at the beginning of the intro of the show. We had a second Kansas win, right? Listen, where UCF basketball is terrible from a historical perspective. We are now playing in the biggest league in the country, the best league in the country. Storied programs. We're having a great season, which we haven't had since 2018, 2019. And the students, right, they change every 4 years. So if we're having a historic season for the UCF basketball program, and the students want to get out on the court and do that, it's worth the fine, number one. And number two, they're only going to experience this so many times during their academic careers, right? And guess what? Those are the same kids that are going to become donors and boosters and ticket holders later on, because they'll remember that feeling, and that's why they come back. So absolutely, I want them to have the reason to storm the court. Like, not every game, because not every team's going to be, worthwhile to do that. But if we play a ranked Texas Tech, a number 11 Texas Tech at home, and we win at UCF basketball in conference in a historic season, absolutely, let them eat cake and storm the floor. You know what I mean? So to me, I don't agree with that. We haven't been there before. None of these students have been there before. So if we win big, let them bring the energy, because they'll come back next week to try to do it again. And the players are eating it up. Stillwell, both times, was eating it up. And that's the kind of thing you want. And those are the memories you make to keep people there and to bring people there. Because guess what? Stillwell's gone next year. Folks is gone next year. If we have the ability, and we're going to have to compete with a $4 million NIL budget this year, and I think we're going to have a little bit more next year, right? But let's say it's $4 million. The average Big 12 team pays $8 million to their roster, 8.6 to be exact, right? Do everything we need to do to show it's fun, that you're going to enjoy it, that the players are loved, because we will, retain and hopefully obtain some additional people by saying, hey, you can win here. It can be a great environment. People will show up for you, and you'll get to celebrate. Those are memories that matter, and that's the difference between this team and last year's team. So do that again and again and again and again and again.
I know, 100%. And let's be clear. Like, the reason I'm on this show is because I was part of the Rowdy Knights when I was a student. Like, I went to the garage and held a Troy is not a state sign, and we might not have the money, but we own Stetson. Like, those are the things.
We know you're old.
Yes, but those are the things that endure. Those are the things that endure. So if act like you've been there, sure. We're not Duke. We're not UNC. Can we get there? Maybe not in our lifetimes. I mean, look, we're a pretty darn good team, and not ranked in the top 25 yet. The two people that are playing right now live, we both beat. So, and both in the top 25. Hey, Trey's in the comments.
Well, but I think what's important, what you just said there, is we're a pretty good team. We're not a good program yet, and by that I mean consistent, right?
Correct.
We're not a consistent program. So let them storm the courts, man.
Yeah, it's absolutely, and it's something the students will remember, and frankly, it's something that the team will remember. If you want, these are things you can put on film to show people when you're trying to bring them here beyond money. And yes, I know money is a part of it, but you can give a bunch of people money and it could be a snooze fest, right? Cash rules everything around me, but sometimes cash and plus ain't bad, which is my new song by the Josh Tang Clan. So I will say this. It was a phenomenal experience. The 2-time court storming allowed me
this week.
I know football wins. There'll be more next year, it sounds like, or later this year. So I will say this. The 2-time court storming allowed me to get over to the student section, which was pretty fun. I don't think I've ever. What? Yeah, it was on the shorts. It got over 1,000 views. How do you not look at the metrics?
I do look at the metrics.
Yes, I was on there. Yeah. I don't think I even stormed a court when I was a student, because the only time, there was only a couple times where it was appropriate. One was at the Marshall game when we went from 0-17 and won, and I was a young UCF employee / student then, and I was like, I don't want to get in trouble for being on the field on the Citrus Bowl. So whatever. So yeah, now
Ben was there.
I'm sure he was.
He was helping.
Yeah, I know. He has good leverage with his hand. Yeah, I would have been there too if I was not too chicken. Now I think we're all good. Texas Tech up by 10 versus Kansas, by the way. So this is that team that's probably going to beat Kansas like we did, or could beat Kansas like we did. We're a solid team. It was a solid experience. And truth be told, I'm looking at the schedule. There's not one home game that's going to be like that. No one's storming the court to beat TCU, which might be our best home team anymore. But it doesn't mean we're not going to be loud and watch great basketball.
So let's talk about that a little bit, okay? So we'll shift gears a little bit. Texas Tech, great win, storm the court. Storm the fort, storm everything you can. I don't care. Let's talk about where UCF stands in the Big 12 right now. Okay. So right now, UCF is number 6 in the conference. Ahead of BYU, because we have 6 wins and they have 5. They only have 3 losses, but they only have 5 wins.
Correct.
They just lost to Kansas, right? So they are 17 we are 17-4. They are 17-4. Texas Tech and Kansas are both ahead of us. The 2 teams ahead of us. So it looks like Kansas is going to lose. If that's the case, then it looks like
we're tied with Kansas.
Yeah, we're going to be tied with Kansas. I mean,
we're tied with one of them. They're both 6-2.
yeah. When did you think that we would ever say, those days it started at the library gym, and then it went to the garage, and then now where we are today. When would you ever think that you would be able to say, hey, we're going to be tied with Kansas at the top of the Big 12 conference in basketball, tied for 5th place? I mean,
might be above them because they're 17-4 and they're 16. They'll be 16-6.
But in conference they'll be the same record unless
but we beat them, so we should also be ahead of them there too. The people who were with me when we were in the Kirk's Jerks and things like that. Like it's insane. It's absolutely insane. This is just not normal. And. Well, I mean, also insane is Arizona being 22-0, but that's a whole other story. This, for us...
And we almost beat Arizona.
We had a darn good shot. Like, they are a beatable team. And I didn't even take a look. Like, we're probably one of the closer teams to get to them. Easily have to be. We're a darn good team. We're playing the basketball that Kirk Spiraw would have been proud of. Like, the very much... And sure, Ben would echo this. The ball's being shared. Defense is pretty good. It's not elite, but you know what? We also have elite scoring, so we're great. We're fine there. We're 17-4. I'm looking at the rest of the schedule, and there's no way I think we're getting under 20 wins at this point. This is, if not the best, probably one of the top 2 seasons. I'll say 3 if we go back to Dexter Lyons and Ben days. But probably one of the best 3 seasons in the modern era. Well, we won't go back to the 70s and 80s. But this is a phenomenal season. And it's because we're playing good offense with team basketball, actually using active hands and playing defense. Like, it's very, very clear this is an amazing team. And you only have 4 games left to watch them live. I'd do it. And hopefully, knock on wood, we do well enough to kind of get enough wins and maybe one in the conference to get to the Tampa regional, which would probably mean second round versus UF. So that would be very fun. But generally speaking, this is a phenomenal season. This is a tournament team. I don't care if we're not metrically top 25 and we're close. Let's be fair. This is that level of a team. You don't need to have a number in front of it.
But I think I may be right, I may be wrong on this.
You may be crazy.
I do think that the voters looked at, okay, they're up against number 8 Houston. We're not going to drop them in and then them get right back out because they're playing number 8 Houston.
Nah, they probably just saw Tennessee and said there was only one spot open. Only one spot popped in. We weren't knocking on the door, if you will. And truth be told, Tennessee, well, listen, we beat Houston. We're in. But the Tennessee's is no slouch of a team, right? And so if you're being objective and if you're looking at the metrics, and I want to be fair here, the SEC is a little nuts of a team this total conference this year, although we still have more ranked teams, and I still think our top half is better than their top half. But Tennessee not doing too bad overall.
They were 2-8 against the Big 12 out of conference. So tell me why the SEC no, seriously. And their number 1 team we beat at their place earlier.
They beat Texas A&M. Yeah. I know we did too, but they beat Texas A&M recently. And honestly,
I don't care about that. The point I'm saying is, as a conference, that's their
yeah.
Right? And we are now, according to the rankings, the 6th, tied for 6th best team, maybe 5th best team for a night, depending on how we do against Houston, right? I'm sorry, top to bottom, the Big 12 outperformed the SEC.
I agree.
We have better teams. We have better basketball. There's no reason why the SEC should be where it's being ranked. So let's look at this, right? So you've got Arizona number 1, so number 1 team. Then you've got Michigan with only 1 loss, which is crazy.
That's insane too.
UConn,
it is.
UConn, which is only 1 loss. Duke, which is only 1 loss. No argument for any of those.
No.
Illinois is 19-3. Gonzaga is 22-1. But but it's Zags, so they'll get it. Iowa State is 20-2, and they beat us like a scalded. Well, I'm not going to say that because that won't be okay. But they beat us. Houston is 19-2, so we have an opportunity to make a statement tomorrow. Nebraska, really good. They spent a lot of money this offseason for their team, 20-2. Michigan State, 19-3, is a little bit of surprise. Then Kansas, who we've beaten, 16-5. Purdue, which is 18-4. Texas Tech, who we've beaten now. North Carolina, 17-4. Vandy, 19-3. BYU, 17-4. Florida, Virginia, St. Louis, Clemson, Arkansas, St. John's, Miami, Louisville, etc. Now, the coaches poll, they have A&M in above us. I don't think A&M should be above us. They are 17-4. We play in a better conference. We have the same number. I guess Trey's kind of announcing. We'll talk more about that later. If you guys are listening, you will have to watch the replay to see what the big announcement is. But we were saving that, Trey. But we missed you too. That being said,
no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
A&M should not be up there. Sorry.
Agreed, but I will. I usually don't argue for other teams that aren't us. Tennessee beat Houston. Of those 2 wins, one was Tennessee versus Houston. Tennessee has also beaten Alabama, whatever. They have some pretty stupid losses too, but they've beaten some good teams, including Houston. I get it. I don't necessarily agree with it. And it doesn't matter what I care about. I'm okay with the team having a chip on their shoulder as long as they can, because truth be told, of the games that we have left, there's only probably 1, maybe 2 that we're probably going to lose. We have a shot of winning all the rest of the games, period. And probably, I'll call 3, we're probably going to lose.
Maybe. Who are the 3 that you think we're probably going to lose? Who are you calling?
So I think at Cincinnati, just because of stupidity, just because we have problems there, we should beat them. But my guess is that in the next 10 or so games, at 10 games, the next 9 games, there'll be one what the heck. That's why I'm saying 3. Houston, look, if we can be number 2 out of the last 51, I'd love it. I don't see it. I know we can do it, but we'll see what happens. At BYU, again, BYU is a darn good team. Could we win? Absolutely. Are they pretty much their only loss until they got into conference was a 2-point loss to UConn? Now, again, they're not playing world beaters, but they also took care of the business we took care of generally when it came to our Big 12. Lost to Texas Tech away. They lost to Arizona at home by 3. Lost to Kansas at Kansas. These are respectable losses, if you will. Not one of their losses is to anyone ranked under 15. So we have a shot, right? Because we've beaten Kansas, we've beaten Texas Tech. We haven't beaten anyone really, really good on the road. That'd be a stellar win. And honestly, even if it's a loss, it's going to be a quad 1 loss. So, and BYU still has all right. They might be licking their wounds by the time they get to us, because they're going to be at Arizona 6 days before and versus Iowa in Provo 3 days before. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But if you're asking me where I think there's 3 losses, probably those 2 and 1 rando. But I think we'll win the rest.
Let's start with the next game up, which is Houston tomorrow night. Okay. So here's why I think we can and may win this game. And the only reason I'm not saying it's I think we will win this game is because it is at Houston and they play really, really well, and it's always hard to win on the road. However, when you look at the stats, UCF outscores Houston 84-78 on average. Now, Houston, on average, allows 61 points against versus 77 for UCF. So the key to this game, in my opinion, is going to be winning the boards and second chance points, right? If we can make it happen and we don't get okay, so I'm gonna bald refs. And that's a big if, right? And a big if they're not protected, right,
Yeah.
then I think that we have a good shot. Field goal percentage 48 versus 45, rebounds 38.3 versus 36.7, assists 16.7 versus 15.5, blocks 2.8 versus 3.8 per game, steals 5.5 versus 8.6. Houston's identity is defense. It has been for a very long time. They did lose against Texas Tech 90-86 3 games ago. After that, they played ASU, took it out on them 103-73, and then played West Virginia, beat them 77-48. So again, this is a really, 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 really good defense, right? Mm-hmm. However, we have a multifunctional offense, and we're great. If they play a modicum of as close on the boards as we did last game against Texas Tech, we have a really, really, really good shot, I think, at winning this game. So as long as we don't come out flat, don't do stupid turnovers like we did, like, what was it? Like, who was it we played against that we turned it over like 13 times in the first half?
I remember this off the top of my head. I can't get it, but I remember what you're talking about. It was
as long as we don't do that, this game's they're not gonna score a ton, right? As long as we can score and keep up early, I think that this team has a good shot at winning. We match up well against them. When it comes to size, we have more size than them. Obviously, Kelvin Sampson's teams are made up of rebounding, heart and hustle, and defense, right? That's their core identity. If we can win the boards, which we've been able to do against lesser teams or similar teams, right? Team that Houston lost against. If we can do that on the boards and get those second chance points, I think this team has a good shot to win. I like the fact that Burks is coming on. We won't get Femina back until Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. I do think we don't have as many fouls to give. So if they call a really tight game, which they probably will, but I hope they don't, because Houston's also very physical. But Kelvin Sampson is very good at taking off all of his clothes and enticing the refs to call things his way. I think JD needs to step up in this game with regard to that. But I do think as long as we stay out of foul trouble early with our bigs, we have the opportunity to do that. Now, this is a physical team. They're going to go to the paint. They're not going to shoot a ton of threes. So we're going to have to be on our P's and Q's on making sure that we have that. Now, where the advantage is for us in this year's team versus others is we have a deeper bench, right? And because we have a deeper bench and it's played pretty well all season long, outside of maybe 2 or 3 games, I think combine the bench, the height advantage, and if Kugel is feeling somewhat back to his normal self, I think we have a good shot against Houston. Now ESPN is got us at a 92%. They got Houston winning 92.9%, and that's valid. But I do think we have a better shot at Houston than people are giving us credit for, as long as we don't come out flat and as long as we don't turn over the ball. And if we stay around that 9-10 turnovers, I think we'll be okay, because I think we're going to get them on the glass. And that's one of their main identities is speed and transition. They're going to hustle the whole game and they're going to try to beat you in transition. If we can score and keep out of trouble when it comes to turnovers, I think we'll be okay. And the way you do that against a team like Houston is you pass the ball, because they're going to have active hands, and that's how they get their steals. They're going to clog lanes and active hands. Don't pass across the paint. Pass around the perimeter. The ball will always be faster if you pass than what the defense's ability to react, and then try to take advantage of your height and your length with bowl, etc. So it'll be an interesting game, but I think this is a game that we can win. Any thoughts to add to that?
Are you saying there's a chance? Right?
I think there's a better chance than what
it's a better chance than previous years. It's better. I'll tell you that. Like, this is the best chance since a few years back, since we've. I can't talk about that. I can't talk about that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But it's the best time we've had when it came to beating ranked teams. And could we beat Houston at Houston? We've done it before while they were ranked. I'll just preview that.
Well, and it's 69-68 was last year's game that we played, right? So and that was with last year's team, right? So can we win against Houston? I think this is a better team than last year's team all around. And I think that we absolutely have a better shot at winning this year than we did last. So I'm going to go out on a limb and take a hot take and say we're going to beat Houston in Houston. And if we do that,
that's near 5-6 seed territory at that point. We're already probably near the 7, but yeah, that's we're good. We're good.
All right. So let's talk about the Bear Kittens part 2. Right. So we're going to be playing Cincinnati after that. Their last game since we played them, they beat Colorado 77-68, beat Iowa State 79-70, which was a real shocker. But I believe we played Iowa State right after that game. They took it out on us. They lost to Arizona 77-51, lost to Arizona State 82-68, lost to Baylor 67-57, lost to Houston 76-54. I don't know what's going on with them offensively, but I feel like this is going to be this could be a blowout as long as we don't come out flat. I think Chiem and Bowl. I think Bowl is gaining confidence, and his ability, his ability to win that game has gone up significantly against Chiem. So, in my opinion, I do think that we have a pretty good shot at beating Cincinnati. I know you don't think that. I think it could be a blowout, to be honest, because we didn't play well against them the first go around.
I agree. You're probably right. I just don't know where the one. I don't know where that one. It's going to happen. I'm assuming it'll be away. So that's all.
No, I get it. So, all right, looking back at the team stats again, like we'd like to do that, UCF shooting 58% to their 48%. 3-point percentage, 43-16. Free throws, 78-63. Turnovers, 14 to their 7. Rebounds, 30 to their 27. Percentage led, 66-24. That was all the last game that we played against them, right? So looking at them statistically as a whole, I just pulled up the previous one instead of the upcoming game. So Josh, if you want to keep going while I pull up the stats that I'm looking for. Here it is. Okay. So Cincinnati right now has a 61.5% chance to win. Overall, for the season, we're at 84 points per game, 71.5 for them. Points against, 67.4. They've got a good defense, right? Has not been doing as well lately versus 77. We're shooting 48% field goal percentage versus their 42, 38 rebounds versus their 37, 16.7 to their 16.5, 2.8 blocks to their 4.3, 5.5 to 6.7 on the steals. I think the Cincinnati team, I think there's something in the water. I think that, they got on that high with Iowa State. That was their Iowa State's game. And their offense has not been playing well. So I think once we get there, I think that's a dub. And obviously it's a quote unquote quasi rivalry game, right? So whatever reason, there's always weirdness that happens with that. But I think we win that game too. So
I tend to agree. It's just we definitely need to figure out we should. How about that? We should win that game. And this is the first time in a couple of years I'm like, oh yeah, we'll win a game at Cincinnati. That's not a big deal. It's just been a while, and I don't know. Their coach probably getting fired after this year. We'll see what happens. Especially
nobody likes him, and that may be part of it too. So right now we're currently number 37 in the net rankings, 21 in the RPI. We're at quad 1. We're 4-4. 3 of those are quad 1A wins. Quad 2 are 1-0. Quad 3 7-0. So some of the teams that were in quad 2 moved to quad 3, and then quad 4 were 5-0.
This is also why, I get it why we're not ranked in the top 25, but sometimes the eye test is a piece of that too, and the eye test is not lying.
What do you mean by it's not lying?
We passed the eye test if people are actually watching.
Yeah. So, going back to that Texas A&M right now, quad 1 wins. They have 3. Quad 2 wins. They have 2. Pittsburgh and LSU, which didn't we play Pittsburgh too? Are they our only quad?
Yes, we played Pittsburgh and Daytona Beach on a neutral and beat them. Yes.
Yeah. Quad 3, they've got 5 wins. And quad 4, they've got 7 wins. So maybe part of that is that quad 2. Their net is 35, so they're just 2 ahead of us on the net rankings. That could be the difference that would made the difference between us being ranked and them. As far as that's concerned, although we do have 1 more quad 1 and 1 more quad 1A win than they do. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I still think we should be ranked above A&M. All right. So
I agree, but I get it. And honestly, as I said, having a chip on our shoulder is not a bad idea.
All right. Let's go ahead and swiv it. I'm going to give a quick UCF baseball update. UCF baseball is back in action, and Ben will be getting us our requisite interview. They had their scrimmage this weekend, black and gold scrimmage. So again, if you want to check out baseball and see what this year's team is going to be doing, check them out. We've got some pretty good players. We got a little bit of logjam at in the fielding position, in the outfield. So it'll be interesting. The infield is pretty much locked up. We've got probably 3 or 4 weekday starters. So it'll be interesting to see who ends up, or weekend starters, and it'll be interesting to see who ends up the weekday starter. And then the other big thing for me is we seem to have a lot of good closers. So at the bullpen, so it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out as well. But if you want to go check that out, you can go check that out this weekend. They'll be having another scrimmage. All right, one more swiv it. Let's go ahead and talk about a little bit of listener love. So this is the segment that we highlight you and tell you that we appreciate you, both your comments, your likes, your reposts, sharing with your friends. We appreciate it, and obviously we appreciate the interaction. So the first comment on here is from, I always have trouble with this, Arguapin, I don't know, I'm sorry, Guapiri. The football team values are purely made up numbers. And he was talking about our Wall Street Journal numbers, and hit him back, said, why do you think that? Those are based off the Wall Street Journal numbers. They're put together by investment companies so that they can evaluate them, right? So the Wall Street Journal numbers that we referenced in the last episode that we had are numbers that people are using valuations for to assess whether they want to invest in a football program. Now, as we said, a couple of weeks ago. That number will go up this coming season, but for last year, that's what that was based off. Then we have Night U 1642. That's great to hear that UCF is finally bringing in revenue. Talking about how we mentioned that the stadium was income positive, and that we're actually bringing in money from the facilities versus others. Our response, it really is and offsets our smaller endowment. Again, we can't borrow from our endowment to pay for this kind of stuff. It's also why the TDT was so important. We would not we would not have the money, or we would be in a situation that someone else would be. Yes, we have less money, but we do have things like the TDT that we can use to offset it, at least for facilities. It'll be interesting to me because I believe the TDT can be used for marketing. I'm wondering if we can tap into that for NIL as well to be more competitive in NIL, or at least the Orlando has a marketing division that maybe we could do that with too. Matt the Cat 16 says basically perfect, almost, talking about your prediction. You've been pretty spot on this season with those, and I said it's the glasses. He's pretty good at it. Then we've got Doug Whalen 3189. He says, this is obnoxious. LOL. That's Josh for you, but that's why we love him. That was your video. I don't know why he thinks you're.
I don't know. The dude's been on YouTube for 4 years, so I don't know if it's a bot or not. But all I know is this.
Well, listen, Doug.
At the end of the day, a comment means that you're actually watching our stuff. So
yeah, Doug is not a bot. He's comments on other stuff. We appreciate his comments. I thought it was pretty funny. CS Go says, good luck to y'all today. UCF has quietly been putting together pretty solid teams over recent years. I remember rooting for them against the Zion Duke team when they almost pulled the upset. That was a Texas Tech fan checking in, watching our videos and checking in. So we appreciate you. Our response, hey, thank you for the support. I know that your outcome wasn't what you hoped for, but Tech is solid and we needed it more than you did. Hopefully we get ranked. Thanks for the shout out. Yeah. So one of the things that I've noticed about this whole ranking thing this week is that the Big 12 fans have been rallying around UCF. So it's nice to have that one of us kind of mentality. That's not what we had in the AAC. When you have Kansas fans, storied programs like Kansas, and Tech fans and other people coming and saying, hey, when these were posted, hey, where's UCF? It's nice. I do think we have more kinship in this league than we've had in previous leagues. And they do come out and support us when it comes to that. Now, obviously, it's probably not a Cincinnati fan, but all right. Econ Advisor says, what a gutsy game. Played the entire game as the team continues to come together and improves despite two players under the weather from the flu too. Two double-doubles, Burks forced to drive, and Tippin score Stillwell hindered Toppin's dominance. Second half, UCF got most of the steals, etc. And he's absolutely right. Speaking of Econ, it posted on here. He says UCF number 28 in each poll. Tech pays more for Toppin than UCF pays the entire lineup. Yes, that is true. We have about 4 million, and he exceeds that. UCF one half game out of third, getting close to 2 buys. Territory in conference tourney. Yes, I agree, Econ. We still have to go through Houston. I don't know if you just checked into view, but my thoughts are that we have a shot, a more better than what most people think shot at winning against Houston. Josh doesn't feel that way, but that's okay if you guys want to check that out and talk about that. I will say this, as always, we do this for you. It's wow, Kansas pulls off the win after being down 9 with 6 left. Wow. Okay, Kansas. Either way, that was good for us. I think it's bad for the league if Tech loses 2 in a row. So that's interesting. But I will say this, thank you guys for liking, thank you for subscribing, thank you for sharing, thank you for telling your friends. Again, we do this for you. We don't get paid for it. We don't want to get paid for it. But we appreciate all of the support. So please make sure to like, share, and continue to subscribe. Okay. One last shout out to C-Dub Socks. He is our most recent subscriber on the channel of the ones that I can see. So we had other subscribers come in over the past 5 new subscribers over the past week, but I can only see one. Then it's time. Yep. And Econ says this too. UCF matches up perfectly to Houston player for player. And that's exactly, and depth. I think that's where we can outrun them. And I think that's why we have a good shot at them, even though we're playing them at home. All right. So that being said, it's time to swivot yet again to not Alan's oxymoronic stat of the week, because he's not here this week. He did, however, help us out with the notes. But we are swiveting to Josh's sometimes funny fact of the week. Josh, take it away.
So the UCF men's basketball team in 2018-19, probably our best year ever. Had our first NCAA win, should have beaten Duke. Long story.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So at this time in that year, did we beat any top 25 teams? So February 2nd, 2019, we're at that point we are 11-2. Did we beat any top 25 teams by then, or at all that season? I'll give you both.
11-2. We played fewer games.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. No. I'm wrong. 16-4. 16-4.
I was going to say, I thought we had the same record as that team did.
16-4. We were 16-4 by February 2nd.
Okay.
So by that point, did we win any top 25 teams, and did we win any during the entire season?
I'm going to say, well, no, we were still in the AAC. I'm going to say we did. Don't ask me who it was. I don't know if it was Memphis or somebody like that. I seem to recall that we beat Houston. I want to say we beat Houston, didn't we? No, we lost to Houston. We didn't beat Houston until March. I don't know. Who is it?
So first off, do you think we actually beat or did not beat any top 25 teams?
As I said, I think we did.
Okay, great. Do you think by this time last year or in 2028?
Well, I know they did at that time.
We actually, I will tell you, we did play our first top 25 team this week at that point, and did lose versus Houston at home, 77-68. So the answer is yes, we did beat 2 top 25 teams, and we beat them in back-to-back. That was the last time we beat Houston at Houston. To my quick, while they were ranked, to my quick knowledge, that was a 69-64 win at Houston, and we the next game beat Cincinnati at home. Unfortunately, that was our last win until the NCAA tournament during the regular season. The what I do have, so that was one of our best teams. We did beat 2 top 25 teams, and as we all know, we have already beaten Kansas. We've already beaten Texas Tech, and we may have a shot to beat another Houston at rank number 8 at Houston right about the same time we were facing them, we were playing them last year. So we had 2 number 8 Houston teams that we beat, one last time in 2018, one coming up this week. So I still don't see it, but it would be pretty amazing if we had 2 number 8 wins versus Houston, within the last 8 years.
I think that would vault us obviously in the top 25, and I think midway through top 25.
That'd be, because if we beat them, we're probably getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, probably 6 more wins. So that would be 7 wins on top of that. We're talking 24 and 6, 7, 8, somewhere like that. So yeah, even if we didn't win something, if we did that, we have a couple things. One, if we actually win how we should, we're going to be in that first 8 teams, which I believe gets us $1 million for next year.
It does.
1. So that's 1. 2, we probably get a decent seed and a bye in the conference format, which I don't know if we've ever had, period. I don't know if we've ever had a bye in the conference format, but I need Alan for that. And then we're probably in the 5-6 seed range, which is really, I want to try to, I want us to get out of the 7, 8, 9, definitely out the 8, 9, 7.
9.
Okay.
Yeah.
But,
like 6, 7, I'm good. Sorry.
Yeah.
I had to do it.
I know. So I was going to do it before. So yeah, that's our fun fact.
All right. So just a reminder, depending on which poll you look at, right now we have 3 top 25 basketball wins this season so far.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And we're 20 games in, right? So that is absolutely crazy. All right. Let's go ahead and swim it yet again to a quick update on other UCF sports that Alan and Andrew do not watch, and probably Trey too, but that's okay because they're winning. All right, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting a little nuts. So let's talk about the women's basketball team. We'll start with the team who is not winning. Since we last chatted, they lost 3, but I get it. They lost to number 14 Baylor 48-73, number 9 TCU 50-68, and Iowa State 52-65. So we are only, with all of that, only 6 games back from first place, baby. And we are not last in the standings. I think it's Houston and Arizona all only have 1 win. There's being objective. There's about 2 winnable games left without an upset. That would probably be Cincy, who has 3 wins, and Houston with 1. But unfortunately, none of those teams are this week. We have a game versus Utah at home this Wednesday, February 4th at 7 p.m. Then the Knights are off to Stillwater as they face the Cowgirls of Oklahoma State, which is what is on their documentation. They say Cowgirls. They are the Cowgirls of Oklahoma State on Saturday, February 7th at 2 p.m. Eastern. Back to the winners and possible winners. The number 9 men's tennis team is 7-0. Okay, so since the last time I did this, they beat number 19 Southern Cal 4-0, and they beat them out west. This is just amazing. They beat number 21 Oklahoma 4-3 in a nail biter at the ITA kickoff, and then they beat UF. Number 18 UF in Lake Nona in Orlando 4-2. I think that was like yesterday.
It was today, and it was the 3rd time in a row that we've beaten the Gators. So they're probably going to cancel that.
Exactly.
Everything else will start beating them on a regular.
Well, when you have something like Lake Nona where the USTA play, we end up getting a lot of great teams. Yeah. It's an advantage, and we also get a lot of people who want to come up here. So coming up next is Miami, who's coming to Lake Nona this Friday, February 6th at 6 p.m. Then we get to the ITA Indoor Championship for 4 games next week. And I think it's like the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, like 4 in a row. Gonna be interesting. This team is more than legit.
Well, and I think... Yeah, and they're not only legit this year, but they're going to be legit for years to come because they had the number 15 recruiting class in the country this year as well. So,
and it's not like the men are the only amazing team. Our number 25 women's tennis team, we did go to ITA and did lose to number 18 UCLA 1-4, but then we beat Marshall 4-0 the next day. Last week, we beat FSU at home 4-1. We had no tennis this coming week with a real South Florida doubleheader going to FIU and Miami next week. We also have that is the indoor track and field. They visit so distance is visited in Gainesville, and sprint hurdles multis are visiting College Station both this weekend, starting on February 6th. Distance I think is just the 6th. And sprints and hurdles and multis are all going to be on, I think, the 6th and the 7th. Not doing it on Friday and Saturday. Men's golf is in 6th place after a 9-over today at the Seabest Invitational, Atlantic Beach, Florida. The last round is tomorrow if you're watching live, and no more golf until Valentine's Day. And last but certainly not least, as Roger, I need to do one of these WWF, what it was when I watched it. Hit the music. Softball is back with 450 games happening in the Black and Gold Classic, or so it seems. It starts on Thursday, February 5th at 3 p.m. with a game at CSU Bakersfield. and at 6 p.m. later that day, they're also playing. I think there's a game that I missed there, a team I missed there. They're playing Bakersfield at 6 p.m. later that day. Number 16, Duke, is our opponent on Friday, February 6th at 7 p.m. And they're also playing Maryland at 7 p.m. on Saturday, February 7th. And of course, we then have on February 8th a doubleheader. We're going to play Buffalo at 11 a.m. and Maryland round 2 at 1 p.m. That's the 455,000th softball game we are playing from Thursday to Sunday this coming week. More sports that Alan, Andrew, Trey, and other people don't watch next week, because we have tons of winning teams and teams that are just doing solid on behalf of the Knights.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Josh. Spring sports are ramping up, and we usually play pretty well with them. That softball team, I'm excited to see what they're going to do this year. High expectations for the softball team as well. There was a lot of dubs this past week. Let's hope we start with another one tomorrow night at Houston. I think we have a really good shot. I'm going to take my hot take and say that we will win that game, and we will go to Cincinnati and beat Cincinnati on the road too. And if we do, I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to do something. If you missed it, Trey did give us a little sneak peek at that announcement that we have. We've been holding it back for him. So check out the video if you want, and if you watch the video, you got to keep watching the whole video to see where that surprise is. If not, and he's okay, we're going to go ahead and share that next week. So super excited for that. Thank you, everyone, for liking, subscribing, commenting, being part of the show during the show. Make sure you share with your friends. Go Knights and
charge on. A lot easier when it's just me. And I will say, with the Grammys, Skrillex was robbed. FKA Twigs, solid performer, good album.